said this many times, it's so powerful to be able to zoom out and think about 5, 10 years from now. Where do you want to be? What does that look like? What's success look like to you? I think all of that like manifesting energy stuff, it's a kind of hippie way to talk about how powerful it is to have a North Star, to have a place you're pointing, right? And it's not about the fact that you manifest things by saying that you want them, but by being clear with yourself about what you want your life to look like, what success looks like. Hello, welcome. Negronis with Nord, episode number 30. Yes, I'm still in this godforsaken cast, excuse my French. We're a month in, people. I haven't worn a suit in a month. Actually, this is really annoying because, as you know, I don't buy my clothes. Yeah, I get them made. I got this new suit made literally a week before I broke my wrist. And of course, it is a linen summer suit. And of course, the weather is starting to change in New York. I'm probably gonna have this cast on for another month, which means by the time I get the cast off and I can fit my arm through a suit, I will very likely no longer be able to wear the new incredibly lightweight linen suit that I just had made. And it's an enormous bummer for me, so I appreciate your condolences. A few weeks ago we talked about BeReal. My prediction stands, which is that, within 6 months, nobody will think or care about BeReal. It is interesting to think why people are connecting with it. Instagram's been around for about 12 years now. TikTok is 3 or 4 years old, but the format is familiar. We had Vine before that. These formats, as they get older and more mature, it gets harder and harder to do something interesting on them, right? And I think that why people like BeReal in this moment is that the format is different. Whereas when you open up your Instagram, you're really not expecting to see something new. In some ways, it's like a little security blanket. It's nice to just scroll through shit that you feel like you've seen 100 times before. TikTok, you're much more likely to see something new, but as that platform matures, I feel like the content is getting more and more familiar as they're doing more trends and things like this. You're no longer seeing new things. And so BeReal is allowing people to play with a new format. Another thing that got me thinking about this was the Forbes list that came out on the top most powerful creators, whatever. Let's not kid ourselves that this is a comprehensive list. It also skewed much more towards entertainment. It was really focused on money, and so it didn't have political, influencers. It didn't have a lot of other categories. It was pretty kind of focused. But if you had made that list 5 years ago, maybe 1 or 2 of those people would have been on there. Maybe. A lot of people on that list that 5 years ago probably didn't even have accounts. And if they did, they certainly probably weren't doing well. I think as you look at this as a career, understand that things are always changing and there's always new opportunity, right? And there is always that time where, if you kind of change something up, you find this thing that works, you can really change your life. I think that's what's so exciting about social. I've always said, I think this is probably more true on Instagram than TikTok right now, but if you can get 100,000 followers, your life can change forever. It doesn't mean you can do this full time. It doesn't mean it'll be your career, but 100,000 followers will absolutely change your life dramatically. We also need to think about this longer term, right? We need to think about it like a career and understand that if you're focused on just the short term, your goals are going to have to be smaller. I've said this many times, it's so powerful to be able to zoom out and think about 5, 10 years from now. Where do you want to be? What does that look like? What's success look like to you? I think all of that manifesting energy stuff, it's a kind of hippie way to talk about how powerful it is to have a North Star, to have a place you're pointing, right? And it's not about the fact that you manifest things by saying that you want them, but by being clear with yourself about what you want your life to look like, what success looks like. You can start building towards that. You can say, okay, I want to be at this place in 10 years, and now I can kind of plot my path to how I get there. So it's focus, consistency, hard work, and a lot of luck. That is most of life, probably. But you have to know where you're pointing, right? And thinking about this like a career and thinking it as a longer term thing helps you do that. I was listening to, there's a new David Sedaris book out. I love David Sedaris. I think he's hilarious. I don't think he had his first work published until he was like in his mid-30s. So that's another good example, again, of like how your life can change if you kind of keep at it. He had 15 years where he worked as a construction worker, a house cleaner, while he was like, writing and trying to like make this thing work for him. It took him till he was in his mid-30s. It's such an interesting comp for a creative life, which is ultimately what y'all are trying to lead, right? I'm listening to this book because I also think you should listen to Sedaris books, not read them, because he reads them and he's got an amazing voice and his delivery is amazing. So Sedaris has been writing these essays since the early 90s. So going on 30 years now of doing this. I've probably listened to or read, I don't know, half a dozen of his books. I don't know how many he has. And they're all the same. It's the same thing over and over. They're new stories. He has really honed his craft. I think he found a thing he was good at. And instead of saying, okay, I found this thing I'm really good at, now I'm going to figure out how to be good at 400 other things, he just was like, I'm just going to do this thing over and over and get better and better and better and better at it. And it's, when you hear these stories, they feel so natural. They feel like your funniest, most interesting friend telling you their best story. But the reality of them is he is a meticulous and obsessive note taker. He has a very structured life of when he writes every single day and how he takes notes and how he then kind of collates and organizes this stuff so that years later he can go back and find it. It's actually incredibly complex, but it is all built in pursuit of him getting better at this thing that he was already naturally good at. It's a really brave and laudable thing to kind of look at how he said, this is my thing. I have found an audience that loves this thing. I'm going to continue to try and grow that audience, but I'm going to keep giving them what they want. And I think as a creator, as an influencer, there's this pressure to continue to innovate and to try new formats and to, expand what you could do. And if you're in fashion, get into beauty. And if you're in beauty and fashion, get into home goods and skincare and all this other stuff. And I think that stuff, I think it is important. I think it is important to keep pushing yourself. I think it's important to try new formats, but not as important as probably understanding, why do people follow me? Like, what do they want from me? And how can I consistently give that to them and have the quality level be really high and continuing to get higher? And that's it, right? Consistency. It goes back to consistency, focus, hard work. A lot of it is not glamorous. I've been grinding away at this business for 10 fucking years. 10 years. It's a grind. Every day it's just like, it gets a little better. We just try and get a little better. We try and grow a little bit more. We try and change something about the business. And that's the reality of it. And I think as an influencer, you can still have a creative life that is structured and focused and purpose-driven and has a goal, and not feel like you're flailing around. And I think that if you can get that focus and you can understand what you want your life to look like, and you understand what your audience wants from you and the kind of content you want to create, and hopefully those things overlap, and you build your life around giving people more of that, I think that can be a huge unlock. And you can stop feeling like you're chasing all of these other projects. In a world that celebrates those overnight successes and those moments of extreme virality, the real reality of most successful people, it is the grind. I hear all the time influencers are overwhelmed with everything they're expected to do now. And I think if everything that's being thrown at you is overwhelming, it's a good time to step back and maybe put some parameters on yourself. What is the content you enjoy creating? What is the content your audience enjoys consuming? And what do you want out of your life? And cut the rest out, because it's noise. You'd be amazed what a weight is lifted when you no longer feel like you're spiraling and every day that you wake up, you're not doing enough already, because you have a plan, you have a path, and you have that focus. Anyway, as always, ask us questions, like, subscribe, follow us, share it with your friends. I'm out here, dropping gems on y'all every week. So if you find it useful, share it, and make sure to ask us questions, and I'll see you next week. Cheers.